You arrive just before dusk. Of course you do. The wind cuts sideways through the oaks, howling like something lost in time. The forest path ends abruptly, swallowed by muck and brambles, and there beyond the tree line is a lake, a perfect circle. Still as glass, and absolutely unmistakably wrong. The air stinks of iron and old things that should have stayed buried. Locals won't speak its name, not even under breath. They call it the Hollow if they have to. But what they really mean is the place where people go in cages and don't come back. You step closer. Not because you want to, but because something in your chest tightens when you try to walk away. This is where they drown the spirit traitors, not witches, exactly. That label came later. These were people who broke the old laws, called on spirits outside the tribe's pantheon, whispered to dead gods, practiced love in the wrong direction, or just refused to be afraid. In a time where gods answered directly and cruelly, that kind of defiance was more than dangerous. It was contagious. So the druids built cages, rough, jagged iron cages. Enough room to kneel barely. They would lock the accused inside, chain a stone slab to the bottom, and lower the whole thing into the water like an offering. If the spirit was false, the person would die. If the spirit was true, well, they would still die. But the druids would interpret the signs. Convenient, right? It wasn't about survival. It was about silence. A spiritual gag order enforced by drowning. You hear something now. A ripple in the stillness. The lake should be quiet. It isn't. One of the drowned came back once. Not alive. Not exactly dead. You'll meet her soon. Her bones burned white. The first body you find isn't buried. It's displayed. Curled fetal style on a slab of flint. Her spine arched backward like she tried to scream and got stuck mid-prayer. Every bone is still wrapped in silver moss. Her teeth are shattered. Not from violence, but from biting through her own tongue. You see the iron cage behind her. Split open like a flower. This is her. The story starts here. The first recorded witch drowning. Except no one wrote it down until generations later, because those who watched it unfold weren't writers. They were believers, fanatics, scared little gods in robes. Her name is gone, of course. That's how you erase a threat. You don't just kill her, you forget her. But they couldn't forget what happened after. The lake curdled. The water turned black and began coughing up things. Hairless rats, birds without eyes, toads with two mouths. The druids said it was punishment for not finding her sooner. That's when the drownings became doctrine. A system, a public service. By the third execution, it was ceremony. Robes, chants, families forced to watch. Children told that screaming was heresy. The bog took them all the same. But here's the problem. That girl, they never found where she came from. No family. No lineage. No explanation for why the lake boiled after she died. Just bones that turned white before they dried, and a rumor that her soul didn't sink. It stayed, waiting. She wasn't the only one. The next victim wasn't a heretic. He was the druid's own brother. When blood turns on blood. The records call him Silas, younger brother to the high druid, and according to legend, the tribe's golden boy. Brave, honest, handsome in the way that made people nervous. He was chosen to inherit the sacred grove. He memorized all the old chants by 13. They said he could speak to trees, and more disturbingly, that the trees sometimes answered. But something changed. He stopped dreaming the way the druids approved of. His visions grew erratic, fractured. He claimed to see cages inside people's chests, spirits with broken jaws. His brother, the druid priest, warned him to keep quiet. He didn't. Instead, Silas carved his dreams into the bark of the sacred oak, 42 symbols, all of them forbiddens. When they caught him, the tribe demanded fire. His brother insisted on water. It's more merciful, he said, more just. Funny how the priest of judgment always chooses the method he invented. They tied Silas to the iron frame in silence. No songs. No prayer. Just wind. And as the cage slipped under the lake, he said 6 words. "She waits for you, brother." The water didn't boil this time. It froze. The lake locked in place overnight in mid-autumn. A sheet of ice so thick it cracked bones of fish underneath. The priest claimed it was a blessing. The villagers knew better, and over the next 6 winters, the drownings doubled. What they don't teach you. Sometimes it's not the heretic who spreads corruption. It's the believer who buries the truth. The ritual spreads. Tribes that never believed start building cages. One of them makes a mistake. They cage the wrong soul. The one who spoke to stone. The 5th tribe called themselves the Hollowjaw. Nomads, bog walkers, obsessed with purity. They didn't drown traitors until a druid from the south showed up with a cage blueprint and a charming little lecture on moral hygiene, and it worked. For a while. Then they drowned a stone seer. That's not a poetic term. She actually talked to stone. Clay whispered secrets to her. Flint cracked open in her palm, revealing symbols that no one else could read. She wore bones around her neck, not from humans, but from extinct animals. You don't ask where she found them. You already know the answer. Somewhere she shouldn't have gone. The tribe hated her. They feared her because she knew things. The kind of knowing that makes gods feel insecure. And when the marsh crops failed and a child went missing, she became the scapegoat. The cage they used on her was different, reinforced, sealed with wax. They didn't want her words leaking out. They shouldn't have worried. Her voice didn't come from her mouth. When she sank, the stones around the lake cracked. Trees split down the middle, not from lightning, but from something leaving. Something ancient, something trapped inside her that had now been released. They tried to silence a gate. Instead, they opened one. One elder survived long enough to confess. She wasn't a spirit traitor. She was a prison. So yeah, nice work, guys. Hook, from this point on, drownings weren't judgment. They were fear management. And soon, one tribe tried to fake a ritual and paid in blood. The cage that never sank. The druid wanted a shortcut. He didn't believe anymore, not in the gods, not in judgment, not even in his own ritual. But he believed in fear. Fear was useful, especially when you're losing control. His name was Trennock, Northern Tribe, big reputation. Small heart. When whispers spread about a spirit traitor hiding among them, he didn't look for proof. He saw opportunity. What better way to unite a fractured village than a public drowning? A little fire and brimstone, minus the fire. Classic politics. But there was one issue. He didn't actually have a traitor, so he faked one. A woman Elwyn, midwife, widow, too clever for her own good. Accused of murmuring dark names during childbirth. The druids didn't even give her a hearing. She was dragged to the edge of the lake, shoved into a rusted cage, and lowered like the rest. But this time, the lake refused her. The cage stopped halfway, wouldn't sink. The vines that held the stones snapped like string. The water swirled, then froze, not ice, solid blood. The cage hovered above the surface, dripping black, and then lifted, by nothing, no ropes, no pulleys. It rose, fully upright, shaking as if something inside wanted out. Villagers screamed. The druid ran. Everyone else just watched. Elwyn never blinked. Her mouth never opened. But when the cage dropped, it didn't go into the lake. It vanished, swallowed by the mist. A week later, Trennock's corpse was found curled inside an empty grain silo, mouth stuffed with bogweed, eyes replaced with black stones. The message was clear. You can't fake judgment. You just join the queue. The next victim asks to be drowned. And what she brings with her changes everything. He girl who knew her death. She walks into the village barefoot, in winter. No name. No family. Just 2 things. A jagged bone necklace and a cage strapped to her back. Not a metaphor. She literally carries her own cage. And she speaks with certainty. The kind that terrifies people more than madness. I've seen what waits, she says. I've seen the truth. Cage me now. They think she's mad. But then the children start crying for no reason. Dogs stop barking. The well water turns to mud, so they cage her. They don't even argue. This cage is smaller than usual, almost reverent, lined with thorns. She steps inside without resistance, smiling like it's a throne. They lower her into the lake. And something happens no one's ever seen before. The water parts. Not violently, not in anger. Like reverence, like respect, the cage doesn't sink. It glides, down and down and down into the earth's black heart. When it disappears, the lake sighs. That's the only word for it. And for 1 week, the village flourishes. No deaths, no fevers. No screams in the trees, until the water starts to boil. The fish float to the surface, the reeds turn white. A child begins speaking in a language that no one taught him, and his voice is hers. They drowned a prophet, not a traitor. And now she speaks through the innocent. The elders burn the child's body. A quiet execution. The lake screams. The prophecy wasn't nonsense. It was a warning. And the next druid? He listens. But what he finds beneath the lake ends the age of belief.